It's the east, though, where we'll continue to see some rain into this evening. Still quite a brisk wind here, although the winds have fallen lighter elsewhere. Now, that rain moves northwards overnight tonight, pushing into parts of Wales, more central areas of England. We'll continue to see this easterly wind dragging quite a lot of cloud, actually, across more eastern areas of northern England, eastern Scotland. Still some hill snow over the parts of the Grampians, some heavy bursts of rain by tomorrow morning. A somewhat milder night, but still a fairly chilly start to the day. Temperatures are around 6 or 7 degrees to start the day across the far south. We've got a little bit milder air actually pushing in for the next few days across more southern areas. But it's going to be another wet day on Thursday, quite widely. Again, more northwestern areas seeing the best of the driest weather, but for most of us it's going to be another damp day, unfortunately. Some heavy bursts and again a risk of some hill snow across more eastern areas of northern England, and temperatures around average, if not a little above in the south.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for helping us reach 10 million followers across social media. We are truly honoured to have your trust, one follower at a time.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. On the M4 eastbound, a lane is closed between junctions 23A and 24, causing possible delays. The M1 northbound at junction 39 is shut due to a serious crash, expected to ease between 10:15 and 10:30. The M60 clockwise between junctions 15 and 17 has a lane closure from a multi-vehicle incident, with delays until 10:45. The M11 southbound entry slip at junction 7 is closed due to an overturned vehicle until 10:45. And on the trains, there is major disruption to Gatwick Express and Southern services. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Venice is being invaded by cannibalistic jellyfish with vanishing bottoms, and they're wreaking havoc across the city's fragile lagoon ecosystem. Well, it is indeed Tom's favourite time of the day. Tom Harwood, over to you.
Not many people know this, but the B in GB News actually stands for biology. Marine biology, that is. So welcome to Marine Biology Corner. We're going to have a look at what is a remarkable jellyfish. Let me just set the scene with some water here. And this is known as the warty comb jelly. Some people call it the sea walnut, because this particular jellyfish has basically a pretty stationary lifestyle. It looks like it's almost not moving, but there are some remarkable things about this jellyfish. Number one, it is a hermaphrodite. So let's just sort of, yes, it's a hermaphrodite. It can reproduce by itself and choose whether to use large or small gametes in order to do so. I'll let your imaginations run wild on that. It's also functionally immortal. This jellyfish is one of those sorts of jellyfish that can actually revert back to an early life stage. It can sort of reverse its own puberty and then go through those life cycles again and again and again. Functionally immortal unless something eats it. But perhaps the most concerning thing about this particular jellyfish is it's got a transient anus. Now, what does that mean? That means that when this jellyfish needs to excrete, an anus appears. But then once the excretion is over, the anus just completely disappears again.
GB News, the People's Channel.
All too often, people will be sitting at home watching a press conference live, and they'll hear loads of questions being asked, and they'll be thinking, that's not my question. That's not my concern.
We don't care whose feathers we ruffle. We ask the questions that you want answering.
You're all standing on the street protesting and want to have an open discussion.
My name's Patrick Christie's. I do a show for GB News in the UK. Is it possible to talk to you quickly?
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now. Well, this is the best view ever of Whitehall, looking out across all the tractor drivers of England who've come together to make their point.
Hello, so as you can see, I'm here in Westminster as the protest begins.
Yes, I'm very much in the thick of it.
Look, we're challenging narratives here at GB News, and that's what sets us apart.
Good morning, it's 9:30 on Wednesday the 4th of February, live across the UK. Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Capes.
Well, is there a cover-up at number 10? The former Prime Minister Gordon Brown goes to war with the government as Sir Keir Starmer will soon release his own files on Peter Mandelson.
And booted out, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor finally evicted in the early hours from Royal Lodge in Windsor as police are looking at claims Jeffrey Epstein sent a woman there to have sex with him in 2010. Now, a shocking new legal letter is released.
Yes, the King's brother appears to have been moved out under cover of darkness on Monday night, but I don't think this is the last we're going to hear of Andrew in Windsor. More details shortly.
And a new study from Brazil suggests that trans women are comparably as fit as females, shaking up the claim of a natural sporting advantage. But former Olympic swimmer Sharon Davies will have a few choice words on that. She's joining us soon.
My hope is that this report will start a much-needed conversation on how Muslim women and girls should be treated in this country. I don't pretend to have all the answers, but we do need to speak about what practices we are comfortable with and what we are not.
And the Conservative MP Rebecca Paul joins us this morning to explain her mission to highlight the abuse of Muslim women within the Muslim community itself.
And find out why gambling bosses worry that ministers are going to purge Britain's high streets of betting shops.
With our courts on the brink, a former top judge sets out his recommendations to fix Britain's broken criminal justice system.
Over £2 billion worth of investment. We'll see an extra 9.5 million diagnostic tests and scans by the end of this Parliament.
Well, this morning, the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, will set out the National Cancer Care Plan as he promises 3/4 of patients will survive the disease for 5 years by 2035.
And some breaking news, police have rushed to a university campus in Leicester following a, quote, very serious incident. Officers are offering support to students and staff who witnessed what happened. We'll bring you more as we have it. But first, here's your 60-second news update with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. Yes, plenty more on that breaking news from Leicester as we get it. First, though, the other headlines this hour. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has moved out of Royal Lodge as part of a permanent move to Norfolk. He's currently living in a house on the Sandringham estate. It comes as police assess a claim that a woman was sent by Jeffrey Epstein to the former royal at the lodge in 2010. Andrew denies all allegations against him. The Conservatives are moving to force the release of all documents linked to Peter Mandelson's appointment as US ambassador. It comes after US court files suggested sensitive government information was shared with Jeffrey Epstein. Mandelson, who also stepped down from the House of Lords last night, denies wrongdoing. In other news, the government has unveiled a 10-year cancer strategy aiming for 3/4 of patients to survive by at least 5 years. Ministers promise faster diagnoses, more scans and expanded screening, but experts warn staffing shortages could slow progress. Well, at least 14 migrants have died after a speedboat collided with a Greek Coast Guard vessel in the Aegean Sea. Authorities say the boat was making dangerous manoeuvres during a pursuit. 24 people are understood to have been rescued, including children and a pregnant woman. Ukraine and Russia are set to resume peace talks in Abu Dhabi under UN supervision, but the United States says progress is being undermined, accusing Moscow of choosing terror over diplomacy. And here, the government has announced an £88 million plan to tackle England's foster care shortage. The aim is to create 10,000 new placements by relaxing rules on who can foster. But charities warn funding alone won't fix the crisis. Those are the latest headlines. I'll have a full roundup for you at 10.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live, We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
So, the former Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, what an extraordinary situation we're in now, has accused Number 10, remember that Gordon Brown was a Labour Prime Minister, of cover-up, as he questions why the Cabinet Secretary, Sir Chris Womold, didn't launch an investigation into Peter Mandelson, which Brown requested last autumn, when it was clear Mandelson was resigning or being sacked as ambassador.
Well, the police have now launched a full criminal probe into Mandelson over allegedly leaking those national secrets to Jeffrey Epstein.
The Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, who had previously been seen as a fan of Mandelson, launched a blistering attack on Mandelson, claiming he has betrayed Britain.
The last few days with the release of the latest tranche of Epstein files is a terrible betrayal. It's a betrayal of two prime ministers who were badly let down by Peter Mandelson. It's a terrible betrayal of our country and its national interest.
Andrew, this scandal has really gone from bad to worse for the government. And I think had Mandelson not been appointed as our ambassador to the States, this would have been seen as a historic problem for the former government. Yes, it would have been big news, of course, but nobody currently in government would have been implicated. But the fact that he was appointed to Washington has made a big difference.
And he lasted just 7 months as ambassador. And when he took that job, he must have known the ticking time bomb that was the Epstein files.
Yeah.
He's in them again and again and again, and they are, frankly, I was talking to somebody, a very senior Labour guy last night. He said, it's jaw-dropping. It's all people are talking about at Westminster. People can't believe how badly Mandelson behaved when he was business secretary in Gordon Brown's government. Sometimes he was sending memos to Jeffrey Epstein 2 minutes after they dropped in his inbox. Extraordinary.
And
it's like he had two bosses.
That's right. And it does beg the question, were there any other senior influential people that he also had close relationships with that he was also sending this information to? And the Epstein files were a big part of the Trump or the anti-Trump campaign during the American election. So we all knew that there was a chance that the files would come out. The government would have known that.
Yes.
Peter Mandelson would have known that.
And of course, the Prime Minister knew about about Mandelson's connection to Epstein. I don't think he clearly didn't know the extent of it, and he clearly didn't know how extensive this relationship was after Jeffrey Epstein had spent time in prison for trafficking young girls.
Absolutely. Well, Jonathan Portes is a former Cabinet Office chief economist. That was during Gordon Brown's government, and he joins us now. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us this morning. This seems to be going from bad to worse for the government. Do you think, with hindsight, Keir Starmer will be ruining the day that he decided to send Peter Mandelson to Washington?
Well, I think that's probably the easiest question you've ever asked me or anyone else on this question. Obviously, yes. In hindsight, it was clearly a absolutely dreadful error. I think the question now, as you said, is the extent to which the government should reasonably have anticipated not exactly this, but at least that there were very likely for these sorts of revelations. And I can only echo what you both said about just how shocking it is, clearly for Gordon Brown and for those of us who were also in government at the time, at the idea that that a cabinet minister would have been passing what was clearly, in some cases, it was clearly confidential information, and in some cases quite market-sensitive information, to somebody who clearly had very strong connections with senior bankers and other financial market participants who obviously value that information very highly. And in some sense, that's sort of independent of Epstein's own criminality. Even if Epstein had been an entirely innocent person, it would still have been completely wrong and very, utterly against any possible ministerial or civil service code to pass this sort of information to somebody outside government, particularly somebody who was involved in financial markets.
You worked very closely with the Prime Minister, Jonathan, as at the time you would have seen Peter Mandelson close up. He was presumably impressive, and good at what he did, which was why not only was he made Trade Secretary by Gordon Brown, he then later promoted him, so he was effectively Deputy Prime Minister.
That's absolutely right. Peter Mandelson was a very effective minister in many ways, and certainly what I and others saw of him suggested that, slightly independent of his political views or the policies, he was very good at getting stuff done. But that clearly doesn't even come close to excusing this sort of disgraceful breach of any possible ministerial code of conduct, ethics, and, I'm not a lawyer, but quite possibly legal prohibitions on passing confidential and market-sensitive information from within government to people who could clearly wanted that information because they wanted to take advantage of it.
I mean, is this going to change the way people approach government, Jonathan? Because if a senior minister is routinely leaking stuff of this nature, and as you say, market sensitive, is it going to make civil servants think, perhaps be more careful about what they put in writing?
Well, I mean, I hope not, because ministers and senior civil servants should be able to have confidential discussions. They have to have confidential discussions, and obviously those discussions sometimes include market-sensitive information. And to be fair, I mean, I think there is no reason, that obviously there was huge amounts of market-sensitive material flying around within the Treasury and between the Treasury and the Bank of England at this time. And there's no evidence, as far as I know, that any of that was leaked. But the vast majority of ministers, and indeed all civil servants that I know perfectly well that you cannot and should not send this stuff outside. I think it does, unfortunately, of course, the sort of proliferation of personal emails, of WhatsApp and other messaging systems that are not part of the sort of formal, sort of internal government email system, does, of course, make it much easier to do this and perhaps much more tempting to do this. You don't have to take something to the photocopier and hand it to your source. You can just WhatsApp it to them. And so government clearly hasn't caught up with that, and it's very difficult to keep up with that. But I would hope that it will lead to greater controls on that sort of thing.
Well, Jonathan Porteous, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And Andrew, I think that is such a good point. It is so easy to just press forward on WhatsApp, whatever it is, a photo, a document. There are no barriers to doing that, whereas in the past, if everything was on paper, you'd have to find a way of physically handing over a document.
And we know from these from the Epstein files that he was sometimes 2 minutes, 3 minutes after something, he was forwarding it to Jeffrey Epstein.
That's right.
Staggering. And rightly now going to be investigated by the police because a lot of this is market sensitive. And he was breaking the Official Secrets Act, which he signed.
And such a turbulent time as well for the economy. Who knows what the long-term...
Just after the major economic worldwide crash. Now, we've got to read this statement from the Cabinet Office, who say Gordon Brown wrote to the Cabinet Secretary specifically asking about the involvement of Jeffrey Epstein in the sale of Royal Bank of Scotland's assets to JP Morgan and the potential involvement of Jeffrey Epstein.
The letter did not ask for a wider investigation to take place. The Cabinet Secretary replied to the letter, setting out that the searches of the official records did not find any files linking Mr Epstein to the asset sale.
And if you recall, when we talked to Piers Pottinger yesterday, he raised that very Royal Bank of Scotland sale to JP Morgan, Jess Staley, who's now been struck, can't practice in the city because of his too close relationship to Jeffrey Epstein.
And of course, the taxpayer, us, lost out billions and billions of pounds as a result of that sale.
Now we've got some breaking news. The former snooker player and broadcaster John Virgo died at the age of 79.
Virgo, who won the UK snooker championship in 1979, enjoyed a long career but was perhaps best known for his work as a broadcaster. And we'll have more reaction on GB News shortly.
Well, it's not only bad for Peter Mandelson, they're going bad to worse for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. He's been finally, and thank God, booted out of Royal Lodge in Windsor. We're going to speak to GB News Royal correspondent Cameron Walker, as there's also some breaking news about a legal letter, Cameron.
Yes, more. As we've been seeing a drip feed of Epstein files as being released by the US Justice Department. A new legal letter appears to claim that Epstein and Andrew asks for a threesome with an exotic dancer. Of course, Andrew has always denied allegations of wrongdoing. This legal letter doesn't talk about any minors or anything like that, but clearly it's just yet another nail in the coffin in terms of his PR nightmare, and also further embarrassment for the royal family. You know, just yesterday, Prince Edward, Andrew's younger brother, was forced to respond to a journalist who asked, what do you think about all these Epstein files being released? And he was clearly very annoyed and was like, I'm here to talk about education, but then did say our thoughts must be with the victims. But of course, there's also this potential police investigation hanging over the saga of Royal Lodge. The BBC first reported a few days ago that a separate woman, a 26-year-old, was sex trafficked by Epstein to Andrew in Royal Lodge back in 2010. Of course, as I said, Andrew has always denied allegations of wrongdoing. It appears that what happened, the anti-monarchy campaign group Republic saw the BBC reports, reported it to the wrong police force, the Metropolitan Police, because of course this happened in Windsor. The Met Police had then passed on that information to Thames Valley Police, and Thames Valley Police have told me this morning that they haven't actually heard from the alleged victim or the alleged victim's lawyer. They've only been passed this information on. So they're assessing that new information, but as of yet, there's no formal investigation into Andrew.
And he was booted out in the early hours under cover of darkness to limit his embarrassment, I suppose, at the being kicked out in that way.
Well, limit his embarrassment, I think limit the royal family's embarrassment, because just hours earlier he was pictured smiling and riding a horse and waving to members of the public in a car in Windsor. And then, you know, just a few hours later, as you say, Andrew, under cover of darkness, he was driven to the Sandringham estate.
Are the two things linked? Waving from the car, happily, looking like didn't have a care in the world, and his exit at such short notice?
Well, there's certain, you know, it's a big coincidence, isn't it? Buckingham Palace isn't going to be drawn as to the timing. We were always told that Andrew would be moving to Sandringham at some point in the new year, but I think, you know, just a couple of days after the all fours photograph of him over a girl, then we've got this police investigation, a new alleged victim, and then we have him smiling and waving to the crowds, which clearly didn't go down well with the public. It's just one thing after another after another. So perhaps the king had enough, but of course Buckingham Palace not being drawn on the timing of that.
No, and what ties in this story, of course, with Andrew and Sarah Ferguson and Peter Mandelson is that all of them said, well, they knew Epstein, but they weren't that close to him. Well, the files show very different.
Yeah, well, it also shows that they clearly misled, and Andrew in particular, clearly misled Emily Maitlis during that Newsnight interview in 2019. And I think he did continue contact.
Probably misled the royal family too.
Quite possibly. I think they're blindsided by the amount of documentation in the Epstein files.
I think everybody has been. More to be revealed. Well, thank you, Cameron Walker, very much for that update.
Still ahead?
A retired senior judge writes a 700-page report on how the Prime Minister should shake up the criminal justice system.
And also we're going to talk about a new study which suggests transgender women have comparable fitness to those whose birth sex is female. We're going to talk with the former Olympic swimmer Sharon Davis, now Baroness Davis, who has a few strong words on this, and she'll join us shortly.
Excuse me.
But first, Miriam's sneezing.
It's anticipation of the sunshine, because here's the forecast for our holiday destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Well, it's not just wet here in the UK. Storm Leonardo bringing some significant heavy rainfall and strong winds to parts of Portugal as well as Spain. Some very heavy rain and flooding is expected in these areas through the coming days. Further heavy rain affecting parts of the Mediterranean, Italy as well as Greece and Turkey, seeing heavy rain throughout this week. Not quite as heavy as elsewhere, however. The good news is it does look a little bit drier as we head towards the weekend though. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Go to Football Safety app is obviously does exactly what it says on the tin.
You're going to a football match, and you've got to remember football doesn't start when you're actually in the stadium. It starts when you leave your house and you're going to a game. So you can report in stuff, whether you're on a train, whether you're travelling, whether you're walking to a stadium, anything that's happening around you. We all know that sometimes it can get a bit rowdy on the trains. I've been there before, stuck on the train before, and sometimes you struggle to report it. And this is a way of reporting what's going on and reporting it to police.
And Emile, have you ever been a victim of all of this?
Well, I've obviously had racial abuse at stadiums while playing, etc.
You know, you know what's sad? The fact that you said obviously.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just awful that it's obviously.
The interesting thing with that is I made my debut at 17. And we know what's going on, we see it, I've had it, and by the time I was finished, when I was playing, I was thinking, by the time I finish playing, it will change. It probably hasn't, it's probably just morphed into something else. We have the ability to get a hold of anyone, any time in our hands, with our mobile phones, with social media, with the social media companies. So it's just morphed into something else where we get a lot of abuse. We see it with the lads playing in the missing penalties, and then suddenly they're getting abused, etc. But that's still happening in the stadium, and it's not just racial abuse, it's bullying, it's sexual harassment, it's all sorts of harassment.
And all these things would qualify to be reported
in the app. You basically just report, you can just click a button and it's instant.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
It's 9 minutes to 11. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Well, this is astonishing research which suggests transgender women have comparable fitness to those whose birth sex is female.
Well, the study published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine says that current evidence challenges assumptions about trans women having inherent advantages in sport.
Well, somebody who knows a lot about this is the former Olympic swimmer Sharon Davis, who's now Baroness Davis. Morning to you. Can we call you Sharon rather than Baroness?
No, I'm getting used to that. It is a bit strange.
Well, or we can call you Lady Davis, whichever you prefer.
No, just call me Sharon. Please just call me Sharon.
We'll call you Sharon. This is a major report, but when I read it and when Miriam read it, we both thought, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I'm also sceptical. It comes from a university in Brazil. Who funded this research?
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, it's trans-identifying men who were involved in the science world putting this study together. Joanna Harper is a very well-known scientist who transitioned a few years ago, and he's been trying to prove for a very long time that there's no benefit to being male but identifying as a female and being in women's sport. I mean, what's quite fascinating is even in this study, I just want to read this sentence out, the authors have admitted that the evidence of mixed quality lacks range and age, lacks sports and competitive levels. So you kind of go, what have they got right? Yeah. There was no pre-notification of fitness before, these individuals decided to transition. So they didn't know how fit they were when they started. And they're comparing not very fit, not very competitive trans-identifying men with elite female athletes. Yes. So they're not even comparing like for like. It's a really poor study. And I'm so disappointed that the British Medical Journal would even bother to publish this, this sort of stuff. It's a bit like saying a not very fit and not very sporty 15-year-old isn't very good, so they should be allowed to compete with the 12-year-olds. I mean, that's how ridiculous.
And even the study does not actually do any research itself. It is just a review of studies that are out there, and they admit that there's not very good data available. Some of the studies have tiny, tiny sample sizes, just a few dozen groups of individuals. As you say, I can't understand why the journal hasn't thrown this out as not up to standard. But do you think the journal itself is trying to push an agenda here?
Yeah, unfortunately, I do. I think it's sort of part of the, the junior doctors. I think that the BN Journal now has become quite activist, quite left wing. I just think it's such a sad reflection that they can't just, this has got to be scientific evidence that's based on proper good studies and proper decent research. Why would you want to do this? Their auspices behind this is that, we should judge every individual case on its merit. But how on earth do you do that? And you're asking people to self-report that they've got worse so that they're allowed to go in and compete against women and have a biological advantage. I mean, how ridiculous is that in itself? The simple truth is that women's sport should be for biological females only. And what we have to do is think outside of the box how we can include everybody else. Because absolutely, I want to include everybody else. We all do. But women's sport is not a support structure, for people that aren't very good in men's sport.
And Sharon, can you just explain to our viewers why men do have this inherent advantage over women and why it doesn't go away just because a man might have hormone treatment to reduce his testosterone levels, for example?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a little bit like boiling an egg. Once you've boiled that egg and you've gone through puberty and you've got all of that benefit, that really, you can never unboil it. But also men have a different bone structure as well. So we have what's called a Q angle, which is your angle between your hips and your knees, and women's are about 50% more. So for example, in football, women get 6 times as many knee injuries. And that's because obviously we don't have the same cadence and the same power, and that's never going to go away. So things like height, won't go away, hand size won't go away, certainly dynamic power. So anything that's explosive, the gap is bigger. If you look at Olympic sport, it's anywhere between 10 and 30%. So the more explosive the event, the bigger the difference. Weightlifting probably being the biggest. But, boxing, when we saw in Paris, 18 months ago, a male will punch of the equal weight 160% or harder onto a less dense bone structure. So we've been waiting now for 10 years for a woman to die. I mean, we've had some serious injuries in America, people that have been made deaf and had their necks broken, but they've not died. We've almost been waiting for a woman to die to prove the bloom. Yes, I mean, we've got years, decades of results to show you that there is a very big difference between male and female performance. And then we have someone like Leah Thomas, that transitioned in America. Leo Thomas, swimmer, not a very good male swimmer, was 650th somewhere in American University swimming in distance freestyle. So that's a bit like a marathon, runner, who then transitioned and started winning sprint events in women's American swimming, beating 3 Olympic American silver medalists. It doesn't happen. It really doesn't happen. It's just extremely unfair.
Sharon, I'm so sorry. We're going to have to leave it there. I'm so sorry, John. We're going to have to leave it there because it's the end of the hour. But thank you so much for coming on and explaining that to us. Very helpful.
The worry is the trans lobby will use this report.
I know, exactly, especially as it's now in a reputable journal.
Exactly.
Lots more coming up, including about that major incident after your weather.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the M4 eastbound, watch for an incident between junction 23A at Mega and junction 24 at Coldra. In Sunderland, congestion on the A19 northbound between the A1018 and the A690 is adding around 10 minutes. In Salford, a crash on the M60 clockwise between junction 15 and junction 17 is closing one lane and causing 20 minutes of delay. Also, the M11 southbound entry slip at junction 7 is shut after an overturned vehicle. And on the trains, major disruption continues on Gatwick Express and Southern services. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
We want you to set off on the destination of your dreams this year, as you could win an incredible holiday for 2 worth £10,000. Courtesy of Riviera Travel, you'll get to choose from 47 tours in over 30 worldwide destinations. We'll also give you £30,000 in tax-free cash to make sure you really make a splash this summer.
For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225 1225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19, PO Box 8690, Derby, DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. It's 10 o'clock on Wednesday, the 4th of February. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
So, cover up at number 10. Who says so? The former Labour Prime Minister Gordon Brown, who's gone to war with the government as Sir Keir Starmer now says he will release his own files relating to Peter Mandelson.
And Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has been booted out, evicted early from Royal Lodge, as today police investigate claims that Jeffrey Epstein sent a woman there to have sex with him in 2010.
And breaking this morning, a major incident is declared in Leicester after police rushed to a university campus following what they describe as a very serious incident. We'll bring you the details when we can.
And a questionable new study shows that trans women are comparably as fit as birth females, which is shaking up the claims of natural sporting advantages. But we'll be breaking down the report.
And more breaking news this morning. The legendary snooker player John Virgo has died at the age of 79.
My hope is that this report will start a much-needed conversation on how Muslim women and girls should be treated in this country. I don't pretend to have all the answers, but we do need to speak about what practices we are comfortable with and what we are not.
Well, that's the Conservative MP Rebecca Paul, and she'll be joining us to tell us about her mission to highlight the abuse of Muslim women from within the community itself.
And find out why gambling bosses worry that ministers are going to purge Britain's high streets of betting shops.
Over £2 billion worth of investment. We'll see an extra 9.5 million diagnostic tests and scans by the end of this Parliament.
And any moment now, the Health Secretary Wes Streeting will set out his National Cancer Care Plan to save hundreds of thousands of lives.
Gordon Brown is on a mission. He is clearly outraged by the breach of trust with Lord Mandelson, who he brought back into government. Remember, he'd been sacked twice from the cabinet by Tony Blair. He was then an EU Trade Commissioner, brought him back into government, gave him a period, made him Trade Secretary, effectively made him Deputy Prime Minister, and the Epstein file shows he was routinely leaking market-sensitive information from the cabinet to his pal Epstein.
And I didn't realise that they were not particularly close at the time, Gordon Brown and Peter Mandelson. There's no love lost, certainly on Gordon Brown's part. So this is confirmation of Brown's mistrust, I suppose.
Yeah, and he is pushing for a police investigation, and I imagine he will have to talk to the police himself.
Probably will.
We spoke to Brown's economic advisor, Jonathan Portis, he was as shocked as everybody else by the scale of what Mandelson was up to.
Well, whatever you think of Gordon Brown and that government, he was having to manage the most extraordinary time economically. And to know now that all his best efforts were being undermined by the leaking of this information that probably could have cost the taxpayer dearly, because of course that sale of Royal Bank of Scotland was not a good deal in the end for the taxpayer.
And there he was, the Trade Secretary giving private, exclusive information to a man who'd been in prison for trafficking young girls.
Extraordinary. And not even a British national, that's right.
An American.
And you do wonder if that was his attitude to sharing information with people he was very close to. Were there other people who he was giving information to?
I think Mandelson was thinking post-government, because he knew the Labour government was coming to the end of its sell-by date. He was thinking about his future. So what was he doing? He obviously regarded Epstein as the future. His best friend, who he said he loved.
It's also clearly very important to him to keep the faith with these very rich, important people, and he needed to feed them information, maybe to maintain his relationships. Absolutely. I don't know.
As ever, we want to know what you think. Send your views, post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here are the news headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. Just after 10 o'clock, the top story this hour. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has permanently moved out of Royal Lodge in Windsor and now relocated to the Sandringham estate in Norfolk, Palace sources have confirmed. Buckingham Palace confirmed he is no longer permitted to live at the Windsor property following renewed scrutiny of his links to Jeffrey Epstein. He left Windsor on Monday night and is now staying temporarily at Wood Farm, once used by Prince Philip, while renovations continue on his permanent home, Marsh Farm. Andrew denies all allegations of wrongdoing, but pressure is mounting for him to give evidence to the US Congress over his relationship with Epstein. The Conservatives, meanwhile, are preparing to force the government to publish all documents linked to Peter Mandelson's appointment as US ambassador. That comes as the Metropolitan Police confirmed a criminal investigation into alleged misconduct in public office after US court files suggested Mandelson passed market-sensitive government information to Jeffrey Epstein. Mandelson has now quit the House of Lords and denies acting improperly for financial gain. Sir Keir Starmer is now facing mounting questions, though, over why Mandelson was appointed despite earlier warnings. Well, the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, has said Peter Mandelson needs to face the full penalties for what he's done.
Public service is meant to be precisely that, public service, not self-service. And what lots of us have struggled with for some time since the previous release of Epstein documents is how, given Epstein's conviction, he continued to be associated with someone who was a convicted paedophile.
Meanwhile, Melinda Gates says the release of the new Jeffrey Epstein files has reopened very painful chapters from her marriage to Bill Gates. Speaking on a US podcast, she said people named in the documents, including her former husband, need to answer for themselves. Bill Gates denies wrongdoing and says Epstein's claims are false and defamatory. The documents are part of millions of files released by the US Justice Department into Epstein's network of powerful contacts. Well, let's just bring you a recap then of the news we're getting into us from Leicester this morning, where a major police operation is now underway near De Montfort University after what officers have been describing as a very serious incident on the campus there. A large cordon remains in place around Oxford Street in the city, with multiple nearby roads closed and people being told to avoid that area. The university says it's working closely with Leicestershire Police and is offering support to students and staff who witnessed what happened. Police are warning the cordon is expected to remain for several hours, causing disruption during the morning rush hour already. Speaking from the scene, some staff at nearby student accommodation have also added that parents have been calling in distress, unable to contact their children. We don't have any further details confirmed at this stage, but we will keep across the latest lines coming to us and bring you those as we get them. In other news, the government has unveiled a 10-year cancer strategy aiming to ensure 3/4 of patients survive at least 5 years by 2035. Ministers promise faster diagnosis, more scans, expanded screening and major investment in specialist treatment, including robotic surgery and genetic testing. Wes Streeting says the plan will deliver faster improvements in cancer outcomes this century, though experts warn staffing shortages could undermine progress. And some sad news from the sporting world this morning. The former snooker player and broadcaster John Virgo has died at the age of 79. He won the UK Championship in 1979 and enjoyed a successful professional career through the 1980s. He later became a familiar face on television too, co-hosting Big Break alongside Jim Davidson, and was widely loved for his commentary and larger-than-life personality. Tributes are being paid from across the snooker world today. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you shortly. Now, though, it's over to Andrew and Miriam.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
And just to recap, there's some more breaking news. A major incident has been declared in Leicester, where police have rushed to a university campus following a very serious incident.
While officers remain at the scene in Oxford Street, De Montfort University, following the incident, which we believe happened yesterday evening. And the university says it's offering support to students and staff who witnessed what happened.
We'll, of course, bring the latest on that incident as we get it.
Well, you've been getting in touch with us this morning on gbnews.com/your say. Let's have a look at some of your comments. Lots about Jeffrey Epstein,
Funny
Peter
that.
Mandelson. Dom says, we've heard from Gordon Brown in regards to Epstein. When are we going to hear from Tony Blair? He has been unusually quiet. Of course, he was very close to Peter
Very
Mandelson.
close. Well,
What did he know?
Peter Mandelson tells people he created Tony Blair.
That is
He
true.
was his advisor.
Yeah.
He was initially backing Gordon Brown for the Labour leadership, but switched sides in '94 when I think he knew Blair was going to win. But he was crucial to the creation of New Labour. There were four people who created it.
Yes.
Philip Gould, Tony Blair, Peter Mandelson, Alistair Campbell.
And credited with making the party much more electable,
Yep.
ditching some of its more socialist tendencies.
Absolutely, make it more telegenic, better all about media and sound bites. He was the original spin doctor.
He was. I was just going to say that. Absolutely.
He was very powerful and he was very pushy, and he was also, I've got to use the word, he could often be poisonous to deal with as a journalist. I used to have fights with him the whole time.
Yeah, well, it would be very interesting to hear from Sir Tony Blair. I wonder if he will make any comments.
Or Gordon Brown, if he wants to come
Of course,
on.
if there is a police... If there is a police investigation, of course, Blair might be called to give evidence into that.
I think it is. There will be a major police investigation, in my view, because of the seriousness of what we've read in the Epstein files.
Well, absolutely. Well, any moment now, the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, is going to unveil a 10-year plan to improve cancer survival rates in Britain.
He will promise that 3/4 of patients will survive cancer by 2035. The oncologist, Carol Sikora, joins us now. Dr. Sikora, good morning to you.
Good morning.
You've been, with all respect, you've been doing your job a very long time. You've seen health secretaries come and go and these sort of plans before. Is what the health secretary is announcing, is he on the right track?
He's on the right tracks. His heart's in the right place, of that there's no doubt. The problem is it achievable with the mess we're in with the NHS? And that's what I would question. It's not money, it's organisation, it's management, it's filling slots. If you haven't got the slots, you can't do the scans. It's aspirational, basically. It'd be lovely to think it could happen.
And Dr. Sikora, why do other comparable countries have so much better survival rates to the UK?
Well, very interesting question, and the key one. And I banged about this 40 years ago when I was first a professor. There's no doubt that other countries speed the early phase of the cancer journey rapidly. From the minute you have symptoms, to see your GP, to get the referral for the first definitive scan or biopsy, it's all a matter of days. Here, the target is 62 days to start treatment, and that's still the target. That's painfully slow. In Poland, my father was Polish, so I know the Polish system quite well. They've come so far, and their target is 7 days. So 62 days versus 7 days, and that explains why Polish cancer survival is now ahead of Britain, which is so sad.
And you talked earlier there about reorganisation. My heart sinks when I hear about the fact governments are going to reorganise the NHS, because we had one under David Cameron when Andrew Lansley was the Secretary of State for Health, and it was, to put it mildly, botched. And you wonder if there's... So is it... when you talk about reorganisation, is it a more prosaic thing you're talking about in just the way appointments are dealt with?
The way things are dealt with, you've got to empower the people that are more or less at the bottom of the pile in the NHS. We don't need grand managers. If you've got a CT scanner and it only uses 6 hours a day, this is just craziness. You've got to find a way of using it 12 or even 18 hours a day. Obviously, people don't want to come at 3 in the morning, but no one minds coming at 8 at night for a scan. If the choice is waiting 2 months or having it tomorrow at 8 o'clock, you'd go in the evening. In fact, some people would rather do that. They don't need to tell their workmates that they're doing anything. So there's lots of advantage. We just got to get the system buzzing in a way that it doesn't really buzz.
Is that resistance by the professionals, the practitioners, who perhaps don't want to be scanning people at 7 or 8 o'clock? They want to have a more normal working day?
No, I think it's just the whole system is based on the past, and people will change. I mean, look at an airline, for example. Even the senior guys, the pilots, the captains are there through the night flying the planes. Why can't we do the same with the NHS? Sure, it costs money, but if you go into any car park of a hospital on a Sunday afternoon, it's pretty empty, a few visitors and that's it. And that's got to change. It's clear that when you go to Poland, France, everything is done quickly. It's expected to be done quickly. Here, we just accept it can't be done as volunteers giving you a nice cup of tea. It's all very lovely, but loveliness doesn't buy survival with cancer.
Well, Dr. Sikora, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And, of course, we will bring you the information from West Streeting when we hear him announce it.
And the thing is, Dr. Sikora, Professor Sikora, has been doing this job a long time. Why don't Secretaries of State for Health talk to people like that? When it's just basic stuff, isn't it?
They want quick fixes for political reasons.
Why can't you get a scan after 7 o'clock? You can if you pay to go private, of course. There's the difference.
Well, we're going to go back to that breaking news about the major incident in Leicester now. And joining us is GB News Home and Security Editor Mark White. Mark, good morning. Thank you for joining us. What information can you bring us about this incident?
Well, as always with these sort of developing situations, not an awful lot that is coming out from official sources at the moment. We understand this was an incident that unfolded late last night, continued throughout the night, with that area near Montfort University closed off, and it remains so this morning. And effectively, I mean, we say a news blackout. There just hasn't been much in the way of any kind of information other than the police acknowledging that the roads around that area are still sealed off. However, we have had a statement through from the university, from De Montfort University. They have just said, we are aware of a very serious incident on our campus this evening. We're working with Leicestershire Police as they launch an immediate investigation. Our thoughts are with everyone affected by what has happened. We're offering direct support to students and staff who witnessed the incident. So clearly, the official word, certainly from the university, rings alarm bells. They talk of a very serious incident, and some of the reports that are coming through suggest that this was a multiple stabbing. But as I say, we need to get that word officially from Leicestershire Police. Anytime anybody hears about, you know, multiple casualties involved in any kind of an incident, then immediately, understandably, people's thoughts turn to the potential of some kind of terrorist incident. Well, I have to say we've not heard anything to substantiate that. And given that this was an incident that unfolded initially late last night, you would have expected, had that been the case, for there to be word from the authorities much quicker than we've had them so far. So, as I say, we await the situation. We know it's under control, but the reason that the roads around the university are still blocked off is because we're into the slow time investigation where police forensic teams are there piecing together the exact sequence of what happened, as they will, of course, look for CCTV, any forensic clues, and speak to people that were in the area, including of course, the local students.
All right, Mark, that's Mark White on that breaking news about this major incident in Leicester at De Montfort University.
Yes, we will of course bring you any more information as we get it. All quite unclear at the moment. Well, coming up next, Sir Keir Starmer is going to release the files into Peter Mandelson.
But what will he release? Because I mean, what the Tories are pressing for today, they're pushing for a vote on this. Is all the stuff that was about the correspondence between Mandelson the 6 months before the appointment as ambassador, after his appointment as ambassador, and what was done about the security check.
Indeed, and interestingly, the Prime Minister seems to have laid an amendment saying everything except things that breach national security, which does sound like the government is willing to do this.
I think they've got to be seen. Well, I think not least because Starmer's under so much pressure from his own backbenchers.
Yes, indeed.
Incensed by this latest catastrophe to befall the government, which is the Prime Minister's fault, because he should never have given him the job of ambassador in the first place.
Absolutely. Well, we'll be discussing that with Stephen Pound and Mike Parry. They'll be joining us very shortly.
And of course, Stephen Pound worked with Peter Mandelson in Northern Ireland when he was Northern Ireland Secretary, so he should have some interesting insights. We're looking forward to it. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
We're sort of all looking on here, hoping this story is right.
I think we've all got a little way to go yet, but apparently the Super 60s, we reach our creative peak at the age of 67, so we've all got ages to go. But what's surprising in this report is who's already 67? Madonna, 67. Kevin Bacon, Tim Burton, I could kind of understand. Gary Oldman, maybe. But there's loads of people out there that are already in their creative zenith. They're already putting out more than they ever done before. 63% feel more creative than when they were in their 30s.
Madonna's past her peak. She's not producing or letting anything else.
I'll let you have Liam Gallagher.
I'm not letting you have Madonna, Tim.
I am.
No,
Madonna's
you're not.
still very raunchy and sexy and somebody that I could...
At 67. Have you seen the pictures of her recently?
Yes,
absolutely. No way.
Well, also Paul Weller's in that category as well, and he's still producing.
Super sexy.
Yeah.
But the report says that at 67, you're obviously mainly starting to retire or take a step back. That's when your creative juices flow.
Well,
but you take up something new, like learning a new language, going to concerts more. So something to look forward to in your 60s.
Well,
when we all
I think
get
it's
there.
very true, because I do think, I mean, speaking from experience, I think that this country is ageist, is absolutely ageist, and sort of our industry is ageist.
Which is ironic, because we do have money to spend, you know. We're actually, well, a little bit more than somebody that's Generation X and Z, that only 25% haven't had a drink in the last 12 months. At least our 50, 60-year-olds still drink.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's It's 22 minutes past 10. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
And before we talk to our esteemed panel, it's time for the brand new Great British Giveaway. Your chance to win a luxury £10,000 holiday for two, and you can get £30,000 tax-free cash to spend. Here's how you do it.
This year, the adventure of a lifetime could be on us. Courtesy of Riviera Travel, there's a terrific £10,000 holiday for two to be won. You could be here exploring the magic of Egypt on a Nile River cruise. Or choose from over 30 worldwide destinations like Thailand, South Africa, New Zealand or even Sri Lanka. And because they have over 40 years experience with handcrafted tours, you'll be safe in the knowledge that every step of the journey will be planned with you in mind. We'll also boost your bank account with a fabulous £30,000 in tax-free cash, which you'll be able to spend however you like this year. So what are you waiting for?
For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. The winner may be contacted live after all entry routes have closed. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, we're joined now by the former Labour MP Stephen Pound and journalist and broadcaster Mike Parry in the studio to discuss the news. Well, there's only one story in town, gentlemen, isn't there?
Yeah. Poundy, come on. How do they... This is a major, major scandal.
Mega.
Yeah, well, biggest probably since I've been a political journalist.
I totally agree. Biggest. This is the biggest story I've worked on in journalism since Diana, Princess of Wales, died.
Yeah.
It's that big.
Yeah.
It's
that big.
No argument about that, and I think it's interesting people are doing comparisons with Profumo, and you know, which after all didn't bring the government. Well, but it certainly affected the next election.
Well, and remind people, Stephen, he was the War Secretary who denied.
He was the Secretary of State for War, as we had in those days, John Profumo, who was sleeping with a woman who was sleeping with a chap called Eugene
Christine
Ivanov.
Keeler.
And Ivanov was a military attaché, but i.e. a spook.
But he lied in the house. That's the difference.
Was mattered in those days.
There was that famous right, was that to lie in the nude is terribly rude, but to lie in the house is a scandal.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
Let's just get back to Peter Mandelson. This whole business, you feel like you stepped in something nasty, and you've got something nasty. It's disgusting, and it's like a rising tide. And what little credibility politics has left is absolutely under threat. However, when I was with this man in Northern Ireland, he was brilliant.
When he was Secretary of State?
He was Secretary of State in Northern... Now, at that particular time, we had the Pattern Report on policing in Northern Ireland. We had the RUC. At that time, the RUC was overwhelmingly a Protestant organisation.
Of course it was. Royal Ulster Constabulary.
Indeed. And it had to be shifted, the Pattern Report, to actually reflect the community. Peter Mandelson came up with this genius idea of awarding the RUC the George Cross, which had only ever been given to one other non-person, which was the island of Malta.
That's right, after the siege.
I have to say, which, you know, was an absolute stroke of genius. In 24 hours, he'd won the RUC over, and he'd worked the transition through. But he was also, I have to say, he wound up Ian Paisley magnificently. I can remember him coming into Paisley's office and looking at all the Union flags. He said, "How can you live with this wallpaper here?" You know, now, he had this frivolous danger. Look, Peter Mandelson sailed too close to the sun. I think he was intoxicated by this. In all this ghastly, awful, egregious filth that is emerging, there's one sentence of his which I think really sums it all up. He said, "I don't want to be the sort of person who just lives on a salary."
Exactly. He's after big money. I mean, the point is, you've only given us a view of Peter Mandelson, the politician. And everybody accepts that as a political mover and shaker, he was brilliant. He invented New Labour, basically, didn't he?
He did.
And he managed to talk Gordon Brown out of standing as the new leader of Labour because he knew that Bambi, Tony Blair, would have a much better chance of winning. Well, I think the chickens are going to come home to roost now, Gordon Brown, because Gordon Brown, I'm told, is incandescent with rage at what Mandelson's been up to, was up to during his government, was sucking up to Jeffrey Epstein and sending him private messages, but also Gordon Brown is very, very angry because he alerted Keir Starmer to this when Mandelson had to step down in October and said, "I think there should be a full inquiry inquiry, and Starmer replied with something like, no, Peter's gone now, it's all over, don't worry.
And his inbox is empty. There's no inbox of emails.
The terrifying thing is May 2010. The election had taken place. It was a hung parliament. Nobody knew what to say. The stock exchange was plunging. We'd lost 2.5 cents against the dollar. The Nikkei had opened with it crashing. Peter Mandelson knew that Gordon Brown was going to resign before the Deputy Prime Minister, Nick Clegg. And he then told
Jeffrey Epstein.
Now, I'm sorry, but that is actually using...
Hang on.
That's what I'm saying.
Nick Clegg was not the Prime Minister when Gordon Brown was Prime Minister.
No, I take your point. What happened was Gordon Brown resigned in May 2010.
After the election,
which
before
then
a coalition was
paved
agreed.
the way to David Cameron.
The coalition.
The coalition between David Cameron. I'm sorry, we were all there. We remember the...
But what you're saying is he told Epstein the day before it was common public knowledge. So that was market-sensitive information.
Oh, absolutely.
And even worse, in 2008, when the world economy was collapsing, the EU decided to have a bailout. It's at 300 billion.
500 billion.
Is it 500?
500 billion. And he notified Epstein, who then notified JP Morgan and all the bankers in Wall Street.
And absolute scandal. A lot of people absolutely cleared up.
And the euro had a major rally.
Exactly.
Rally, and there's no doubt Epstein would have profited financially.
But here's the fascinating thing. Nobody knows how Epstein made his money.
We do now.
Sort of.
Is it blackmail? Is it influence?
Did it come from Russia, a lot of it?
The reality is he owned no companies, he owned no shares.
Look, if Mandelson was giving you market-sensitive information, that was effectively insider trading.
Well,
that's how he made money.
Can I just say, we're coming into the realm of criminal.
We are, and we do need to say, though, that
the
Lord
charges
Mandelson...
haven't been laid yet.
That's true, and Lord Mandelson has previously denied criminal wrongdoing related to Epstein.
Although he has not made any comment about this latest release of emails about what he released. Email from Cabinet.
There's a fascinating piece this morning around, it's Dan Hodges, who's a brilliant political journalist, who says that what Mandelson was doing was he was pretending to be much more important than he really was to Jeffrey Epstein by sort of hinting that, don't worry, I'm on the inside, I'll let you know when Gordon's gone. They clearly talked about Gordon Brown in disparaging terms, calling him smelly.
God,
I mean, it's so horrible that there was a sort of... Sorry? Juvenile. It was a laugh and a shout behind Gordon Brown's back. Gordon Brown now, I think, is on a mission to bring, somebody to account for this, because he feels very angry.
Could the Prime Minister fall over this, in your view, Steve?
I don't think so. Harold Macmillan didn't fall over Profumo.
But times have changed.
Yeah, but everybody knew Macmillan was on his way out.
They did.
Do you see what I mean? So it wasn't desperately...
That was 3 years. That was 1963. The general election didn't take place till, as you know, 66. It's entirely...
No, it took place the following year and they lost.
Yes.
And he's been Prime Minister for some years, but this guy,
since 50
he is being blamed. You cannot find a Labour MP who is not enraged by this story, because as Miriam pointed out earlier, if Mandelson had not been brought back as cabinet as ambassador, this would have been somebody who hadn't been in government for 16 years.
I mean, it would have been embarrassing, but not so relevant.
It wouldn't have been corrosive. It wouldn't have been so destructive. But look, the thing is, nobody's going to do anything before May the 7th.
Well, are you sure? You're sure that somebody won't have to answer, like Morgan McSweeney? Because what we don't know is, we don't know why, despite the fact that the red flags were all over the place, despite the fact that the American intelligence must have known about all of this, Starmer, despite warnings, including one from Gordon Brown, said, no, he's the perfect man for the job. I mean, with his background, having been sacked twice from Tony Blair's cabinet, he was deemed still to be suitable. It's outrageous.
But look, the reality is, you say that Keir Starmer might go before May the 7th. One thing we've learned from the Conservatives is changing your leader doesn't actually give you a boost in the polls.
That doesn't matter.
Panicking MPs do strange things.
Exactly.
They do. And there's a by-election at the end of the month, which Labour could lose. And who will be blamed for that if they lose? It'll be the Prime Minister, because he blocked Andy Burnham from being the party candidate, who is... His nickname is King of the North.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, well, we're going to have to probably leave it there, and we can't talk too much about the by-election, because it's an ongoing concern.
If we talk about it, we have to...
Starmer's tried to put all sorts of distractions in the way, hasn't he? Calling for Andrew to be investigated.
We need to move on. We will see you again in an hour. We do need to make the point again that Peter Mandelson does, of course, deny all criminal wrongdoing.
Yeah. So now we're going to get your 60-second news update with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. The 10:30 headlines. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has moved out of Royal Lodge as part of a permanent move to Norfolk. He's currently living in a house on the Sandringham estate. It comes as police assess a claim that a woman was sent by Jeffrey Epstein to the former royal at the lodge in 2010. Andrew denies all allegations against him. The Conservatives, meanwhile, are moving to force the release of all documents linked to Peter Mandelson's appointment as US ambassador. It comes after US court files suggested sensitive government information from Westminster was shared with Jeffrey Epstein. Mandelson, who also stepped down from the House of Lords last night, denies wrongdoing. Breaking this morning, major disruption across South East England's rail network after what operators are calling multiple incidents. Southern, Thameslink and Gatwick Express say services could be hit until the end of the day, following a train derailment at a South East London depot and a signalling failure. National Rail's now advising passengers not to travel where possible. And a major police operation is underway near De Montfort University in Leicester after officers confirmed a very serious incident on campus. A large cordon remains in place with roads closed and people urged to avoid the area. The university says it is working closely with Leicestershire Police as parents of students nearby report being unable to contact their children. Those are the headlines for now. Much more from the newsroom at 11.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Coming up next, there's travel chaos in the southeast and a do not travel warning is now in place. We'll have all the latest on that.
This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. A cloudy day for most of us, rain and hill snow for more northern areas. It will feel a little bit warmer and there will be some sunshine into this afternoon across more southern areas, but still a snow warning as well as a rain warning for parts of Scotland throughout this morning. Some disruption to travel is definitely possible. Heavy rain pushing northwards as well as that hill snow. It will turn drier for parts of northern England as well as Northern Ireland, and actually some sunshine breaking through across southeastern areas into this afternoon. It's a little bit of a warmer day to come. 11 degrees in London. The wind's not quite as strong, so you won't be feeling that wind chill quite as much, particularly across more northern areas into this afternoon. Now that drier, brighter weather is not going to last all that long. The next batch of rain is moving in this evening, particularly across more southwestern areas. Cloudier skies ahead of that. Still a clear evening to come for more central areas, and it should be largely dry away from the hills across Northern Ireland, parts of northern England and much of Scotland. It's the east, though, where we'll continue to see some rain into this evening. Still quite a brisk wind here, although the winds have fallen lighter elsewhere. Now that rain moves northwards overnight tonight, pushing into parts of Wales, more central areas of England. We'll continue to see this easterly wind dragging quite a lot of cloud actually across more eastern areas of northern England, eastern Scotland. Still some hill snow over the parts of the Grampians, some heavy bursts of rain by tomorrow morning. A somewhat milder night, but still a fairly chilly start to the day. Temperatures are around 6 or 7 degrees to start the day across the far south. We've got a little bit milder air actually pushing in for the next few days across more southern areas. But it's going to be another wet day on Thursday, quite widely. Again, more northwestern areas seeing the best of the driest weather, but for most of us it's going to be another damp day, unfortunately. Some heavy bursts and again a risk of some hill snow across more eastern areas of northern England, and temperatures around average, if not a little above in the south.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the M4 eastbound, between junction 23A at Mega and junction 24 at Coldra, there's an incident with delays possible. On the A19 northbound, at the junction with the A1056, road management has one of 2 lanes closed, with normal conditions expected by around 11:15 this morning. In Northamptonshire, the A14 eastbound between the M1 Catthorpe interchange and Junction 1 at Welford has a broken down vehicle and a lane closed, clearing by around 11:30. And on the trains, major disruption continues on Gatwick Express and Southern services. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. It's 23 minutes to 11. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom.
Now, we're going to talk to Simon Calder, the travel journalist, because there's a do not travel warning that's been issued by the UK's largest rail operator. Simon joins us now. Simon, good morning. Tell us more. What's going on?
Oh, my goodness, Andrew. Good morning to you. Yeah, this is exactly, as you say, Britain's biggest and busiest train operator. It's Govia Thameslink Railway, but people who are travelling, particularly in southeast England, will know it more as the separate brands Southern, which links London with the south coast and runs lots of suburban services. Also the Gatwick Express, which does what it says on the trains, and Thameslink, this crucial line which runs from Cambridge, from Peterborough, from Bedford through the centre of London and then down again to Brighton and the rest of the Sussex coast. So what we have seen today is multiple failures, and effectively all of this line is really important. It I think we're seeing pictures now of a derailment in the depot at Selhurst Station. At Selhurst Depot. This is in South London. It's quite close to Croydon, and it looks from the pictures as though something has gone very badly wrong indeed. As a result of that, Southern says that trains can't leave the depot. That's affecting not just Southern, but also a lot of the London Overground services as well. And if you're watching in some other part of the country, you might be thinking, well, tough luck. You've got lots of trains in London, but these are absolutely critical for millions of people every day. On top of this derailment that we're seeing, there's also been a more traditional signal failure between London, Blackfriars and Norwood Junction. That's another really key stretch of line. And trains are basically having to stop at a red signal, phone up the signaller, say, is it all right if I go? And then be told, yes, it is. And if you're talking about a line where normally there are trains running through fast every 3 minutes or so, that is adding a lot of time to the journey. And just because these things have to be shared around if you're travelling between Wilmslow and Crewe on that crucial stretch of line, which connects Manchester with a lot of the rest of the country, that's got problems too.
Well, Simon, extraordinary. Thank you so much for that. We'll keep you up to date on that. And the advice is not to travel.
Well, I think that advice has now been lifted. It's been reported a few minutes ago that the do not travel advice has been lifted, but there probably will be disruption for the rest of the day.
Terrible indictment it's on this country, frankly.
I had my own trouble with the trains yesterday, Andrew, but we've been through that in detail.
Well, they just keep cancelling them. I thought Labour were going to make the trains work on time. Do you remember? That's what they said.
They did. Well, that's only a year in.
Exactly, 18 months, actually. Now, the Conservative MP Rebecca Paul is extremely outspoken in her mission to highlight what she says is the abuse of Muslim women from within their own community.
Well, she's the MP for Reigate. Rebecca Paul joins us now. Good morning, Rebecca. Thanks so much for coming into the studio. So you are a member of the Women and Equalities Committee. They've done a report into discrimination against Muslim women. Can you tell us more about the report?
So that's right. So they did this report, and what I found is that they focused mainly on discrimination coming from outside of the community, which obviously is very important that we deal with. But in reality, there are significant harms that come from within Muslim communities. And one of the things I find is that people are almost afraid to talk about this when certain practices are happening and they're associated with certain religions or cultural practices. People shy away from raising the issue. And I thought it was really important, as we're the Women and Equalities Committee, that we should be dealing with all harms to women and girls within the Muslim community. So that's why I drafted my report.
And what are these practices you're talking about that people are reluctant to talk about, Rebecca?
So it comes down to religious attire. So one of the things that I feel quite strongly about is children in our primary schools wearing the hijab. And, you know, we're seeing this is increasing and it effectively makes those children feel different and separate from their peers. It impacts how they get involved in sporting activities and other activities. It also has a health impact as well in terms of, vitamin D deficiency. And I think if it was any other community, if it was me sending my daughter into school, I think people would have a view on that. And I think it's really important. I'm not saying I have all of the answers on this, and I recognise it's actually a really sensitive topic, and I want to listen to all voices. But we have to have the conversation about the potential harms of these practices.
Sorry, so what did the other members of the committee say when you raised this point? Why aren't we talking about discrimination within the community as well as coming from without?
So they were quite keen on focusing more, I think, on the discrimination coming from outside of the community. And I think the title of the inquiry, Gendered Islamophobia, probably tells you something in terms of their focus area. And, to be fair, I think they did make a few amendments to their report following me raising the challenges and also following me drafting a new report.
Yes.
But it did take me drafting a very long, comprehensive report that took a great deal of time. And I'm the only Conservative MP on the committee, so this was me
on your own,
on my own, doing this work. But I think it's important that we talk about these issues.
What about the Muslim women in Parliament, of which there are many? Why aren't they raising these issues?
That's an interesting question, and I don't know. I mean, I think one of the things we have to realise is that it's very difficult for Muslim women who are within their community to talk about these issues. And that was one of the problems I had with the approach the committee took with this. So one of the things they did was they sat down with some Muslim women in a mosque. But straight away, that's really difficult for those women to share their fears or concerns because, they're in a religious setting. And there are ramifications when Muslim women step away from the cultural expectations of their community. So I think it's a really tough thing to talk about. But people do talk about it. I mean, Dame Sarah Khan, for example. Yeah. So there are strong voices out there raising these issues. And I think we just need to make sure in committees like the Women and Equalities Committee that all those voices have been heard. So it's absolutely right that we listen to the voices, or some of the voices that we did on the committee. But there are others that also need to feed in and be given emphasis as well.
Do you think there's an assumption from some of the MPs on the committee that Muslim women in Muslim settings, this is completely their choice, it's their choice to wear the hijab, it's their choice who they marry, even if, I think you point out in your report that 75% of Islamic weddings go unregistered, that leaves women very vulnerable if there's a divorce or a separation. Do you think there's this assumption that it's completely chosen and actually the reality might be different?
Yes, so I've heard that argument. So when it comes to things like full face coverings or, the hijab in schools, it's considered it's about free choice. Now, I will say right here and now, I absolutely support an adult female to decide how she wants to dress. But we have to recognise, is it always a free choice? Now, there may well be a group where it's a free choice, but actually, when there are negative ramifications for taking it off, is it really a free choice?
Yeah. And if we wouldn't allow British women or non-Muslim women to be treated that way, why should we allow Muslim women to be treated that way?
Exactly. Why should a girl born into a certain community effectively have less rights and suffer these detrimental impacts? And all of these things impact. They impact on opportunity because they affect integration, they affect socialisation. And, we really do just need to start talking about these issues and decide as a country what practices are acceptable and what aren't. I think we have shied away from it for too long, and now's the time. And like you say, unregistered Islamic marriages is a massive issue. On relationship breakdown, these women aren't protected by UK law.
Is it legal, these marriages not being registered?
Yes, and I think we need to change the law around that. So my recommendation is that we need to look at reforming marriage law and whenever there is an Islamic ceremony, make sure it's accompanied by a legal ceremony. So these women, these Muslim women, they deserve the same protections that I have, everyone else has. So what I've tried to do, I really have tried to centre women and girls in what I'm doing. This is all about practices that potentially have harm to Muslim women and girls and how we prevent that harm.
Rebecca, we're going to have to leave it there, sadly, but thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for speaking up on this very important and difficult issue.
I agree. Now, up next, the comedian Jim Davidson is going to join us to pay tribute to the snooker legend John Virgo, who's died at the age of 79. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Well, it's not just wet here in the UK. Storm Leonardo bringing some significant heavy rainfall and strong winds to parts of Portugal as well as Spain. Some very heavy rain and flooding is expected in these areas through the coming days. Further heavy rain affecting parts of the Mediterranean, Italy as well as Greece and Turkey, seeing heavy rain throughout this week. Not quite as heavy as elsewhere, however. The good news is it does look a little bit drier as we head towards the weekend though. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. Let's go back to that breaking news this morning that the former snooker player and broadcaster John Virgo has died at the age of 79.
He won the UK Championship in '79, but he was best known for his work as a broadcaster.
Well, joining us now is a friend and presenter of Big Break, Jim Davidson. Jim, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Sad news, he was an exceptional man.
Yeah, he was a great bloke. And ironically, I'm down at Ustream Studios today with the editors putting a package together for John, who was going to come on my 50-year anniversary TV special we're doing alongside you guys as well are covering it. And of course now the editing's going to turn around into a completely different thing. I spoke to him last week and he was looking forward to coming along. We're going to cut together some film of me and him getting it all wrong. And he was a great bloke. He is a great bloke wherever he is now. I heard this morning, I got a call from his beautiful daughter, Brooke Lear, who told me the bad news. And of course, she's devastated and in shock and went into some detail. But the bottom line is he was a great guy. I got on brilliantly with him. Everybody loved him.
Why was he so popular, Jim?
Because he had strong opinions to himself, and he hated Margaret Thatcher, and he knew that I loved Margaret Thatcher. So you can imagine, Piercy, the rows we used to have were fantastic, but they were always tongue in cheek, and he never forced himself or his opinions on anybody. He was just a nice guy. He was vulnerable. He liked to drink. He liked to bet. He loved his family. And he told me a story, or I heard him telling a story, that he said, my life was really going down the pan, my marriage. I hadn't not been playing snooker very well. I hadn't been doing anything. I was gambling and drinking too much. And then the phone rang, and it was Jim Davidson, and that phone call changed my life. And that was me saying, do you fancy doing this program called Big Break? And that's it. He never forgot that. And we were mates until this morning at 5 o'clock.
Oh, so sad, Jim. And what Big Break, explain, was he a big reason why that programme was so popular, Jim?
Yeah, I think he was. And I think it was the fact that we saw snooker players in a role that they don't normally do, like running around like loonies, because they're all laid back, aren't they? That was John. Ever so laid back, pot as many balls as you can. And the reason why he was so good and people loved him, he was absolutely rotten at reading the autocue. So he'd walk down and he'd get to the autocue and he'd say, it's good to be here, John, isn't it? The start of a new series. Yes, it is, Jim, thank you, stand back. Look. And people thought, that's genius. He's making that up. He's not. He's just useless at it. And we all loved him. But having said that, he was very professional. We did 4 of those shows a day, Piercy. You can imagine, they were 2 hours long, cut down to an hour. And they were just impossible to unless you had a sense of humour and you got on really well with your broadcasting partner, it would have been a nightmare. But he was such great fun. And he was always... Jim
Davidson, I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you so much for joining us and sharing your memories.
And great to talk to you, Jim. Always a pleasure. That's a comedy legend, Jim Davidson.
Superb. Well, don't go away. We've got plenty left on the show. But first of all, your weather.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. A cloudy day for most of us, rain and hill snow for more northern areas. It will feel a little bit warmer and there will be some sunshine into this afternoon across more southern areas, but still a snow warning as well as a rain warning for parts of Scotland throughout this morning. Some disruption to travel is definitely possible. Heavy rain pushing northwards as well as that hill snow. It will turn drier for parts of northern England as well as Northern Ireland, and actually some sunshine breaking through across southeastern areas into this afternoon. It's a little bit of a warmer day to come. 11 degrees in London. The wind's not quite as strong, so you won't be feeling that wind chill quite as much, particularly across more northern areas into this afternoon. Now, that drier, brighter weather is not going to last all that long. The next batch of rain is moving in this evening, particularly across more southwestern areas. Cloudier skies ahead of that. Still a clear evening to come for more central areas, and it should be largely dry away from the hills across Northern Ireland, parts of northern England and much of Scotland. It's the east, though, where we'll continue to see some rain into this evening. Still quite a brisk wind here, although the winds have fallen lighter elsewhere. Now, that rain moves northwards overnight tonight, pushing into parts of Wales, more central areas of England. We'll continue to see this easterly wind dragging quite a lot of cloud, actually, across more eastern areas of northern England, eastern Scotland. Still some hill snow over the parts of the Grampians, some heavy bursts of rain by tomorrow morning. A somewhat milder night, but still a fairly fairly chilly start to the day. Temperatures are around 6 or 7 degrees to start the day across the far south. We've got a little bit milder air actually pushing in for the next few days across more southern areas. But it's going to be another wet day on Thursday, quite widely. Again, more northwestern areas seeing the best of the driest weather, but for most of us it's going to be another damp day, unfortunately. Some heavy bursts and again a risk of some hill snow across more eastern areas of northern England, and temperatures around average, if not a little above in the south.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
This year, the adventure of a lifetime could be on us. Courtesy of Riviera Travel, there's a terrific £10,000 holiday for two to be won. Choose from over 30 worldwide destinations like Thailand, South Africa, New Zealand or even Sri Lanka. We'll also boost your bank account with a fabulous £30,000 in tax-free cash.
For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It's 11 o'clock on Wednesday, the 4th of February, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, does a cover-up continue at number 10? Well, the former Prime Minister Gordon Brown has gone to war with the government as Sir Keir Starmer will soon release his own version of the files on Peter Mandelson.
And he's been booted out. At last, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor evicted from Royal Windsor Lodge as police are now looking at whether to investigate whether Jeffrey Epstein sent a woman to Royal Lodge to apparently have sex with him in 2010. Now a new shocking legal letter is released also.
Yes, a very embarrassing legal letter which I'll be bringing to you. Of course, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor moved under cover of darkness. I wonder why, but this is not the last we'll see of Andrew in Windsor. Stay tuned.
And breaking news this morning, a major incident has been declared in Leicester after police rushed to a university campus following a very serious incident.
Well, this is a strange incident because it was 6 p.m. yesterday when the university alerted people to a very serious incident. And all these hours later, we've still not got official confirmation from the police, although East Midlands Ambulance Service say one person was transported to hospital.
And chaos on the trains. A do not travel alert was issued after multiple incidents in the southeast.
And a new study has suggested that trans women are comparably as fit as females, shaking up the claims of natural sporting advantage. However, Sharon Davies told us that the report is not worth the paper it's written on.
And Kemi Badenoch will take on Sir Keir Starmer at PMQs from midday. Don't forget to send in your questions. I imagine quite a lot will be about Lord Mandelson. gbnews.com/you'll say is where you send the questions.
And some more breaking news this morning. The legendary snooker player John Virgo has died at the age of 79.
And businesses across Britain are demanding that they're included in that 15% business rate reduction which was announced for pubs by the Chancellor a couple of weeks ago.
Well, as you just said, Andrew, I don't think it'll be too difficult for Kemi Badenoch to decide what line of questioning to take at Prime Minister's Questions today.
An open goal. And the Primes will be on the defensive because of his decision to bring Mandelson back into public life as ambassador. And also he's going to be under pressure because Gordon Brown, in September, when Mandelson was fired as ambassador, demanded an inquiry into what he may or may not have disclosed when he was Secretary of State for Trade under Gordon Brown.
Well, I've no doubt that Keir Starmer will have known that it was a risk. Obviously, he thought it was a risk worth taking, but he has been, in the last few days, very quick to say that he'll cooperate with any inquiry, very quick to distance himself, calling for Peter Mandelson to step down from the Lords, which, of course, he has done. So, clearly, the government's doing everything it can to show that it agrees that his behaviour has been unacceptable, but will that be far enough?
He steps down from the Lords, but because of that quirk in the Constitution, he cannot actually resign himself, so he is still Lord Mandelson.
Yes, and I think we'd need an Act of Parliament or something to revoke that.
And I think we need it because he should be stripped of that title. And there's a few other scallies in the House of Lords who should be stripped of their titles too.
Sure, you're not going to name any names.
Too long a list for now.
Well, I think the police will be doing their investigation. It'll be interesting to find out if there's any more information to come out because, of course, those Epstein files are absolutely enormous. They have not all been combed through yet by journalists, so there'll be more to come out, no doubt.
So let's get the latest headlines now with Sam Francis.
Andrew, Miriam, thank you and good morning to you. Fast approaching 4 minutes past 11. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has permanently moved out of Royal Lodge in Windsor and relocated to Sandringham Estate in Norfolk, according to palace sources. Buckingham Palace confirmed he is no longer permitted to live at the Windsor property following renewed scrutiny of his links to Jeffrey Epstein. He left Windsor on Monday night and is now staying temporarily at Wood Farm, once used by Prince Philip, while renovations continue on his permanent home, Marsh Farm. Andrew denies all allegations of wrongdoing, but pressure is mounting for him to give evidence to the US Congress over his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Well, that comes as the Conservatives are today preparing to force the government to publish all documents linked to Peter Mandelson's appointment as US ambassador. It comes as the Met Police has confirmed a criminal investigation is underway into alleged misconduct in public office after US court files suggested Mandelson passed market-sensitive government information to Jeffrey Epstein. Mandelson has now quit the House of Lords and denies acting improperly or for financial gain. Meanwhile, Sir Keir Starmer now faces mounting questions over why Mandelson was appointed, despite earlier warnings. Well, Health Secretary Wes Streeting told us earlier that he thinks Peter Mandelson needs to face full penalties for what he's done.
Public service is meant to be precisely that, public service, not self-service. And what lots of us have struggled with for some time since the previous release of Epstein documents is how, given Epstein's conviction, he continued to be associated with someone who was a convicted paedophile.
Next, an update on the major police operation underway near De Montfort University in Leicester. That after what officers described as a very serious incident on campus. So far, we know one person has been taken to hospital and a large cordon remains in place. Multiple nearby roads to the campus are closed. People are being told to avoid the area. The university says it is working closely with Leicestershire Police and offering support to students and staff who witnessed what happened. Speaking from the scene, staff at nearby student accommodation have also said parents have been calling in distress, unable to contact their children. Other than those few details, little else that we know so far, but we will keep across details for you and bring you the very latest. Also today, major disruption across South East England's rail network after what operators have called multiple incidents. Southern, Thameslink and Gatwick Express say services could be hit until the end of the day following a train derailment at a South East London depot and a signalling failure. National Rail is now advising passengers not to travel where possible, particularly on Thameslink routes. The government has unveiled a 10-year cancer strategy aimed at ensuring 3/4 of patients survive at least 5 years by 2035. Ministers are promising faster diagnoses, more scans, expanding screening and major investment in specialist treatment. Wes Streeting says the plan will deliver the fastest improvement in cancer outcomes this century. Those experts are warning staff shortages could still undermine any progress. Ukraine and Russia are set to resume peace talks in Abu Dhabi today under UN supervision, but the United States says hopes of progress are being undermined, accusing Moscow of choosing terror over diplomacy after alleged cyber and intelligence activity targeting Ukraine's energy networks. Washington says the attacks highlight a widening gap between Russia's actions and its stated commitment to talks. And from the sporting world, sad news today that former snooker player and broadcaster John Virgo has died at the age of 79. He won the UK Championship in 1979 and enjoyed a successful professional career through the 1980s. He later became a familiar face on TV too, co-hosting Big Break in the 1990s, and was widely loved for his commentary and larger-than-life personality. Those are the latest headlines for now. I do hope I can hand you back to Andrew and Miriam. I think they're busy munching away on biscuits. Let's see.
Oh, yeah, you caught us, Sam. Just having our little 11 o'clock break.
We were.
Well, welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates. And let's go back to that breaking news now about a major incident that has been declared in Leicester.
Yeah, East Midlands Ambulance Service was called to address at 5 p.m. yesterday. The Leicester West MP Liz Kendall, who's of course in the Cabinet, has just said her thoughts with those affected by what's happened.
Well, joining us now is GB News' Home and Security Editor, Mark White. Mark, still very unclear the nature of this incident in Leicester.
Yes, and what we are aware of now, thanks to the East Midlands Ambulance Service, is that it even happened an hour earlier than we thought. It was 6 p.m. we thought before. It actually happened just after 5 p.m. They said they responded to reports of a medical emergency, that they sent a paramedic car, that they sent 3 ambulances, and the air ambulance paramedics were also involved in responding to this. And they say that one person was taken to Leicester Royal Infirmary. But as I say, nothing, given that this was an incident that unfolded at 5 o'clock yesterday evening, from the police. Now, we know, following Southport and so many other high-profile incidents, the need now, and the police tell us all the time they've learned lessons about getting information out there in a timely manner. And if it wasn't as serious as first thought, that's also important to get out there to allay fears as well. And we've, as you just alluded to in your introduction there, heard from the local MP Liz Kendall. Now, she said, "I'm aware that a serious incident took place on De Montfort University campus yesterday evening and that a police cordon remains in place this morning. There are no further details currently, and I would urge everyone to refrain from speculating." Well, you've got to ask, what is the use of a statement like that? It's almost as if it's the public's fault for understandably speculating about an incident that happened the previous evening, and nothing has come out from official sources. Maybe just a prompt word to say to Leicestershire Police, perhaps you need to get a bit more information out there. Because, as I say, if it was not as serious as perhaps the university had indicated, describing it as a very serious incident, then that also needs to get out there just to try and reassure people.
Odd, Mark, unless there is a national security reason potentially why the information is being withheld.
Well, I'm not aware of anything like that. There is nothing that's come across my radar suggesting there's any kind of terrorist related incident that may have unfolded. But of course, that's uppermost in everybody's thoughts when they hear about a serious incident, when they're told, for instance, about potentially multiple casualties. And, according to the ambulance service, it's just one potential casualty taken to Leicester Royal Infirmary. But when those reports are out there, then of course people are very concerned about the potential for very serious incidents like a terrorist incident. That's why it's so incumbent on the police, who tell us repeatedly how they have learned the lessons, to get the information out there in a timely manner.
Really interesting, Mark. Keep us up to date as and when you can. That's Mark White, our Home and Security Editor, with the details of what we know so far about this incident in Leicester.
Well, moving on now, the former Prime Minister Gordon Brown accused Number 10 of a huge cover-up as he questions why the Cabinet Secretary Sir Chris Wormald didn't launch an investigation into Peter Mandelson last autumn.
The police are now looking at whether to launch a full-scale criminal probe into Mandelson over the leaking of national secrets, which have been detailed in the Epstein files that have been released this week.
Well, the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, has launched a blistering attack against the former peer, Peter Mandelson, claiming that he's betrayed our country.
The last few days with the release of the latest tranche of Epstein files is a terrible betrayal. It's a betrayal of two Prime Ministers who were badly let down by Peter Mandelson. It's a terrible betrayal of our country and its national interest.
Well,
that's Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary. I suspect he would have had Mandelson backing his leadership campaign, which is pretty much up and running already.
Yes, and of course, Peter Mandelson has been a patron to many new, young Labour MPs, helping them with their campaigns, of course, and so probably has been quite popular amongst them.
Sure he has. Let's talk to our chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster. Catherine, this is a fast-moving story with the police pretty much involved now. Prime Minister's questions in barely 45 minutes. It's going to be an electric atmosphere in there.
Oh, yes. Undoubtedly, and Peter Mandelson's problems getting worse by the day as more and more revelations come out, and by extension, Number 10's problems getting worse, because there is a world in which all this had emerged, but it was historic about things that had happened, 15 years ago under Blair and Brown's government. But because the Prime Minister decided, pushed heavily by his Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, to appoint Peter Mandelson to that incredibly plum job of UK ambassador to the US. He only took that position up just under a year ago and was sacked in September because of that decision. This has made a whole world of trouble from Number 10. Number 10 taking a harder and harder line by the day. At the weekend, there was no comment. Then they wanted him to stripped of his peerage, but it was all very complicated. Then they said, actually, we're going to legislate for that. Peter Mandelson has still stood down, though he still has the title. And now PMQs, but after that, the Conservatives have tabled this humble address, this mechanism to force a vote, forcing Number 10 to release all the information around the vetting, around the decision to appoint Peter Mandelson for that role. Now, the government have tried to stave off rebellion because the opposition parties would have voted for that, and potentially dozens of Labour MPs who are appalled by the optics of what's going on would have supported that too. So number 10 is now tabling an amendment to that saying, look, we will release all the information. It's likely to take a couple of weeks for that to happen. They'll release all the information, but there are a couple of critical exceptions. And those exceptions are, except where it pertains to national security or to international relations. So that's a pretty broad remit. So let us see what emerges. Gordon Brown, the former Prime Minister, as you mentioned, absolutely furious because he asked for the Cabinet Office to investigate back in September a story that Epstein had brokered a deal with Mandelson over the sale of a taxpayer-owned British bank. Nothing came back from that, and yet day after day we're getting more and more jaw-dropping revelations.
All right, Catherine Forster, and of course we will be there for PMQs, don't forget, and we'll have Tom and Gloria in the Westminster studio, and you know that Kemi Bainott is going to every single question on the Mandelson scandal.
And
it's a scandal.
Absolutely. And when it comes to that vote, the Labour MPs will feel very, very keen, I would imagine, to vote with the Conservatives on this. It'll be interesting to see how they're whipped, if they're whipped on it at all.
Yeah, because if they abstain...
Imagine voting against releasing the documents. I don't think they're going to do that somehow. I imagine that the government will remove the whip because that'll create mutiny. If they force Labour through the no lobby on this...
It's interesting because they've only got 18, 19 MPs, but sometimes... The Tories, as the official opposition, can cause huge difficulties.
Well, they've learned the lessons from what Labour did in the last Parliament. Very similar. Well, we do need to say that a Cabinet Office spokesman has said Gordon Brown wrote to the Cabinet Secretary specifically asking about the involvement of Jeffrey Epstein in the sale of the Royal Bank of Scotland assets to JP Morgan and the potential involvement of Jeffrey Epstein. The letter did not ask for a wider investigation to take place.
Cabinet Secretary replied to a letter setting out that searches of the official records did not find any files linking Mr Epstein to the asset sale. Brown's point is that he wanted a broader investigation. I think that's a bit of weasel words from the Cabinet Office, actually.
Indeed, although, of course, they didn't have access to the Epstein files at the time, which are a new source of information. Well, things are going from bad to worse for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, formerly Prince Andrew. He's now been booted out of Royal Lodge in Windsor overnight.
I speak to GB News Royal correspondent Cameron Walker, and there's some more embarrassment for this man. It's a legal letter, Cameron. Tell us more.
Well, yeah, this is half the problem, isn't it? More drip feed of the Epstein files from the Department of Justice in the US. It appears to show a legal letter claiming that both Andrew and Epstein asked an exotic dancer for a threesome. Of course, Andrew denies all wrongdoing against him, but it's just the latest in a long line of embarrassment, really, for Andrew and, by extension, the royal family. We've had the all fours picture of him over a relatively young girl. We then have this separate allegation from somebody who claims she was sex trafficked to Andrew at Royal Lodge in 2010. The police are looking into those claims at the moment. Of course, as I said, Andrew, we have gone to Andrew for a specific, what he thinks about that. We haven't heard back from him, but in the past he's always denied those allegations named against him. But we're seeing it overshadow the work of the royal family still, even though he has been quietly moved to the Sandringham estate. We saw Prince Edward effectively kind of ambushed by a journalist yesterday, asking him specifically, this is Andrew's brother, what he thought of the Epstein leaks. He was quite guarded and was quite annoyed that he was asked a question, but did say his thoughts were with the victims. And this, I'm afraid, is probably going to keep happening, because we haven't heard the last of the Epstein files. If the police choose to investigate, that's clearly going to create problems. And we had Nigel Farage, former UK leader, yesterday, saying that nobody, in fact, I'm paraphrasing, but he said basically nobody is above the law, including Prince Andrew.
Of course, the woman allegedly trafficked to Andrew. Andrew was 26.
She was.
So there's no issue about age of consent.
No issue about age of consent, but of course sex trafficking is a very serious offence in the United Kingdom. Of course, there is no suggestion that that is what Andrew is being kind of accused of by the police at this stage. He denies all those allegations, but it is completely different, as you say, to the Virginia Giuffre situation, where she claims that she was had sex with Andrew on 3 separate occasions when she was 17 years old, and that's something Andrew has always denied.
Yes, and of course this is very, very embarrassing for the royal family, but no suspicion at the moment that there's any criminal activity from Andrew at all.
No, absolutely not, and he has always denied those allegations. The police aren't actively investigating either.
All right, thanks for that. That's Cameron Walker, our royal correspondent. Now it's time for our Great British giveaway. Your chance to get some summer sun with £10,000 holiday for 2, plus £30,000 in tax-free cash. Here's how you do it.
This year, the adventure of a lifetime could be on us. Courtesy of Riviera Travel, there's a terrific £10,000 holiday for 2 to be won. You could be here exploring the magic of Egypt on a Nile River cruise, or choose from over 30 worldwide destinations like Thailand, South Africa, New Zealand, or even Sri Lanka. And because they have over 40 years' experience with handcrafted tours, you'll be safe in the knowledge that every step of the journey will be planned with you in mind. We'll also boost your bank account with a fabulous £30,000 in tax-free cash, which you'll be able to spend however you like this year. So what are you waiting for?
For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. The winner may be contacted live after all entry routes are closed. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up next, the House of Lords have thrown their weight behind a smartphone ban during school hours.
We'll be going through that and more with Stephen Pound and Mike Parry, both of whom are still trying to figure out how to connect to the Wi-Fi. Well, if they're struggling, my struggle will be far worse.
I think you're logged on, Andrew.
I get that. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 25 minutes past 11. You're with Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
At the panel at the back, Stephen Pound, the ex-Labour MP, and the journalist and broadcaster Mike Parry.
Indeed,
Mike,
yeah.
You've got hit up on a great talking point.
Well, it is, and I think Miriam and I may clash on this. I don't know how the rest of the panel will feel, but Jan Leeming goes to a very lovely restaurant near Canterbury, and she's having dinner, not lunch, dinner. And she is taking a friend out to celebrate the friend's birthday. She's looking for, you know, the ambience is great and all that. But it was all disturbed by a rowdy child on a nearby table. And she complained to the management afterwards and said, look, my evening was rather ruined by the noise of that child. And instead of getting sympathy from the management, they said, well, I'm sorry, you know, they weren't over-sympathetic, and in fact had spent some time playing with the said youngster in the restaurant, which really annoyed Jan Leeming, who at 84 years of age, it's always rude sometimes to talk about a woman's age, looks fantastically great and was out there for a great night with her friends, ruined, but I am on her side.
She's making the point, no kids in restaurants.
Go on, get in there, get in there.
Well, I think it all depends. Was this normal chatter from a child that's perfectly normal?
But it was noisy and rowdy.
Or was it genuinely unacceptable behaviour? And I think what we're seeing over recent years is this trend to see that any noise made by a child in public or any kind of...
So, just on that moment, sorry to interrupt you there, Miriam, but we're going to go back to Leicester. We're going to Leicester because our national reporter, Jack Carson, is there with some breaking news. Jack Carson.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, what we know about this incident so far, of course, is that officers were called here about 5 to 6 p.m. last night, saying that they were dealing with an incident here on Oxford Street, where we are. In the last few moments, a post on X from Leicestershire Police replying to people who are talking about this incident has said that speculation is unhelpful, but we can confirm that this was not a mass stabbing. They say further details will be published shortly on our website and social media channels. Of course, there was a massive police presence here last night, and into today you can see behind me where these cordons are still in place. These cordons are on multiple roads around the city. The city this morning eerily quiet, with so many cars unable to come down these usual streets. Of course, the De Montfort University spokesperson confirmed that the incident took place on its campus, saying we were aware of a very serious incident on our campus, that they were working with Leicestershire Police as they launch an immediate investigation. They say their thoughts are with everyone affected by what has happened. We know from a spokesperson for the East Midlands Ambulance Service that the caller reported a medical emergency here last night. The East England Ambulance Service say they sent a paramedic in an ambulance car, 3 crewed ambulances, and a responder from the air ambulance was also in attendance. They say we transported 1 patient to Leicester Royal Infirmary, and we're just getting some breaking lines in now from the Press Association, who say a De Montfort University student who does not wish to be named said he saw an elderly man receiving medical attention on a pavement. The student, who apparently has been on their way home from a field trip, told the Press Association, "I just saw a person on the floor and getting CPR. I was going back home and then I just saw the police around and saw the person on the floor." That person tells Pierre that he was an old man. I think I didn't really look too much because I'm kind of sensitive. The student said the man was lying on the pavement across the road from the Bowling Green pub on Oxford Street, Leicester. That is still this same street here. So as you can imagine, lots of news coming to us all the time here in Leicester, of course, as we try to work out exactly what has happened. But as you heard, the Leicestershire Police Force expecting to issue an update immediately, but just to say what they've told us in the last few moments, that speculation isn't helpful, but we can confirm that this was not a mass stabbing.
Well, that's relief. Thanks for that, Jack Carson, our national reporter, who will keep us up to date on that story. Let's go back to...
Indeed. So we're talking about...
Can I just say, everybody talks about the continent of Europe, where you have, in Italian restaurants, you have the children of the bambini, and you know, it sort of brings children up in a much more sophisticated way. The French children glugging back the old vino, you know, obviously heavily diluted with water. But people talk about... I have to say, you know, I'm a grandfather, I've got kids.
Yes.
And I actually love the sound of children.
At lunchtime. At lunchtime, I agree with you. But hang on.
But what... So sorry, Mike, you used the word screaming.
Yes.
If this was screaming, the child's in distress. And if the child's in distress, the mother or the father should have taken them out.
All right.
If you're just talking about kids running around, giggling, having a good time,
no, it's not
on,
that.
I say,
it's
enjoy
not that.
it.
Ms Leeming says it was not inexpensive, lovely ambience, slightly spoiled by a screaming child. When I paid and remonstrated, I was treated as though I were the one at fault. One tot was a real nuisance and was allowed to walk around, often screaming, and the staff were playing with it. That, to me, is bad behaviour. Shouldn't be allowed in restaurants after 5 o'clock in the evening because it ruins it for everybody else.
I have to say, one tot in a restaurant usually means something different to us here.
But you made the point earlier, Stephen, that this is an expensive restaurant. If they're dining in the expensive...
I know, you can afford a nanny.
Or a babysitter.
I think it's difficult to know without actually experiencing what she experienced. Is she making a fuss out of nothing, or was this genuinely bad behaviour? But I think there is this trend to be completely intolerant of children and their noise. And I know parents of young children feel really judged on public transport or in open air when their children are being normal children that in the past have been tolerated.
I don't agree, you see, because I love English pubs, but I also love families to enjoy English pubs.
Yeah.
And I often have been in a pub and I've got my paper in front of me and a couple have come out and said, oh, I'm awfully sorry, our kids are making too much noise. And I've said, no, it's a family pub, but that's at lunchtime.
Well, Mike, I'm afraid I'm going to have to shut you down as well, just like that toddler, because we've got lots on today.
Running around screaming.
Exactly, that's enough of that. Because we've got PMQs at midday. And so, as always, Tom Harwood and Gloria De Piero want your question for the Prime Minister. Send them into gbnews.com/your say.
Should be a quiet day today.
You're with British Newsroom with GB News. Stay with us.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a damp day to come in Scotland with a mix of rain and hill snow, drier elsewhere and turning a little milder from the south as the day progresses. We've seen snow in places during the morning and overnight, but the snow becoming restricted to the hills of Scotland as this milder air comes through from the south, and it does turn drier across Northern Ireland, much of England and Wales. Even some sunshine coming through for southern counties of England as well as South Wales. But for Scotland, it remains grey and damp. The most persistent rain towards the east, where it will feel cold with this continuing southeast wind. Feeling milder further south as the sun comes through into the afternoon. A bright end to the day for some places, but a grey day continues across Scotland. Nevertheless, the snow mostly restricted to higher parts of the Grampians, Shetlands Hills as well by the afternoon and into the evening. Drier across central and western Scotland, even a few cloud breaks heading into the evening, but the best of any cloud breaks would be for the south and southeast of the UK. Then, as we go through the night, another band of rain starts to emerge. So again, from the south, this pushing into the southwest and south of the UK as the night progresses. And although it's not going to be particularly heavy, of course, it is going to be another damp start to Thursday. And we'll continue to see those outbreaks of rain and hill snow into the east and northeast of the UK. But in between, some cloud, yes, but a good deal of dry and fine weather to start things off on Thursday. This band of rain moves into central parts of the country, so persistently damp, before some heavier rain turns up later on, and some concerns about this as well because of the state of the ground in the south. Best of any dry and bright weather, the northwest of Scotland.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Well, coming up next, there's a 700-page report published today detailing how Keir Starmer can regain control of the criminal justice system. Andrew's read every word. What's your analysis?
It's by Lord Leveson, who did the big inquiry into media freedom. Now, we're going to get a huge update from Leicester shortly, but first we're going to get our 60-second update with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. The top stories at 11:30. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has moved out of Royal Lodge as part of a permanent move to Norfolk. He's currently living in a house on the Sandringham estate. It comes as police assess a claim that a woman was sent by Jeffrey Epstein to the former royal at the lodge in 2010. Andrew, though, denies all allegations against him. Meanwhile, the Conservatives are moving to force the release of all documents linked to Peter Mandelson's appointment as US ambassador. It comes after US court files suggested sensitive government information was shared with Jeffrey Epstein. Mandelson, who also stepped down from the House of Lords last night, denies wrongdoing. Major disruption this morning across South East England's rail networks after what operators are calling multiple incidents. Southern, Thameslink and Gatwick Express say services could be hit until the end of the day following a train derailment and a signalling failure. National Rail is now advising passengers not to travel where possible, particularly on Thameslink routes. And in the last few minutes, it's been confirmed by Leicestershire Police that an 18-year-old man has been arrested and a murder investigation is now underway after a man is believed to have been stabbed in the city centre there. Police say the incident near De Montfort University was not a triple stabbing, though, amid speculation online. Roads across the city are still closed, and the university said it is working closely with police in supporting students and staff. Next, more on that breaking news with Jack Carson live from Leicester. For now, though, it's back to Andrew and Miriam.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
It's 11:37. You're with Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Andrew and Miriam. We're going to go straight back to Leicester, where Jack Carson has more on that incident. Jack.
Thank you. Yeah, we've now got the full police statement on exactly what they believe to have happened here. They say a murder investigation is underway after a man is believed to have been stabbed close to Leicester city centre. Leicestershire Police confirmed they were called just after 5 p.m. yesterday following a report that a man had collapsed in Oxford Street close to the junction with Bonners Lane, which is that junction just behind us there. They say while officers were en route to the scene, it was reported the man, who is in his 20s, had been stabbed. As we were saying, the East Midlands Ambulance Service attended the scene here. They took a patient to Leicester Royal Infirmary, but Leicestershire Police now confirm that that man, believed to be in his 20s, died a short time later. They confirm in their statement that detectives from the East Midlands Special Operations Unit and Major Crime Team have been working to establish the full circumstances around the incident, but that they have arrested an 18-year-old man on suspicion of murder who is currently in police custody. They say as their investigation continues, they'll be carrying out a number of inquiries, including reviewing CCTV and speaking to witnesses who were in the area. They say an appeal is being made for anyone with information or mobile phone or dashcam footage to come forward. They say it's believed the victim was involved in an altercation with another man in the street. They say that man left the scene prior to police arriving. They say scene preservation remains in place while it's examined by forensic and search specialists. And the Detective Inspector Lorna Granville, who's a senior investigating officer at Leicestershire Police, says we're currently piecing together exactly what happened on the corner of Oxford Street and Bonners Lane between what is reported as two men involved in a confrontation. They say in that statement one of the men is believed to have been stabbed and then collapsed in the street, and despite the best efforts of medical staff, he died in hospital. And as we said, it says further in that statement that CCTV in the area is being reviewed. They say many people came to the aid of the victim before the emergency services arrived here at the scene. They want to thank them for their help, saying if you're one of these people and haven't yet spoken to police, make contact with them. Of course, with this incident happening at 5 p.m. yesterday, Senior Investigating Officer Detective Inspector Laura Granville says that many people in the area, particularly motorists, would have been driving along this street, and if they saw anything on dash cam as they drove past the area, they would appreciate hearing from you. They say the incident has caused major disruption in the city, but the local officers will be in the area over the coming days to carry out reassurance patrols. Of course, the Montfort University, who confirmed in a spokesperson earlier today that the incident had happened on their campus, say they are remaining to support students.
Thank you, Jack.
That's Jack Carson. Thank you for that.
Obviously a tragic incident, but it is odd that it's taken so long for the police to give us that information.
Now, a reporter's found probation services on the brink, with staff underestimating the risk posed by criminals in over 2/3 of cases.
Well, a former senior judge, Brian Leveson, has recommended that prison vans be allowed to use bus lanes when transporting inmates to court as part of wider measures to reform the criminal justice system. And former Attorney General Sir Michael Ellis joins us now. Sir Michael, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on Britain's Newsroom.
Hello, Mary.
One of the things that this report mentions is using bus lanes for prison vans, but actually that's just scratching the surface. The point is that the court system is, he says, on the brink of collapse.
Yes, and he is right about that. And in fact, I have a great deal of respect for Brian Leveson. He's a great judge, a powerful intellect, a great public servant. But I'm not sure this is really enough to move the dial. The criminal justice system is in dire straits. There has been massive underinvestment for a long time. And we now have these suggestions from this government that removing jury trials is going to make a difference. That is not going to make a jot of difference, as we've said on your programme before, Andrew and Miriam. But these latest proposals, this magisterial work of 700 pages, and I have to confess I've not gone through all of those pages just yet. But one of the suggestions is for some official to have some overarching responsibility for the criminal justice space who reports to the Prime Minister. Well, we have to inject some politics into this argument, and the fact is that the Justice Secretary, I think, would have something to say about being bypassed in that way. The reality is that there's one person who has to have collective responsibility in Cabinet for the justice system. So I think there's some flaws to this argument, but there's no doubt that prison vans, the production of prisoners at court on time is one of the reasons for delays. That, coupled with an underinvestment in the court system, not enough judges, not enough courtrooms actually fit for service because they're leaking, or the roof is leaking, or the plumbing or the heating isn't working. That's the cause of the delays, nothing to do with juries, and I'm afraid very little to do with bus lanes.
Wouldn't a blue light be a simpler solution, Sir Michael?
Well, I mean, I think that it's a bit more nuanced than that, because the reality is that a lot of the issues about the prisoners being produced on time is a result of the prisons not actually loading the prisoners, and then the bureaucracy around that, prisoners refusing and then not being carried because they simply refuse. There's a whole myriad of reasons, including just efficiency, as to why prisoners aren't produced on time. And this is a problem that's developed really over the last 10 or 20 years. It never used to be the case. But we now have a technological weighted data. And I hope that Lord Leveson is addressing this issue too, because one of the real causes for the backlog in the system is just the sheer mountainous weight of digital data that every case produces. You can imagine an ordinary burglary. There might be now 10 camera, bell cameras, if you like, on the doors in the street, and they all have to be checked. They all have to, hours of footage has to be gone through. And if that's happening in every case, that's really what's a massive cause of the delay.
Yeah. Sadly, that's all we've got time for, Sir Michael, but thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'm sure this topic will come up again. This backlog post-COVID shows no sign of being cleared.
And it won't wash that to restrict jury trials will speed it up, as Sir Michael
Hopefully they're going to drop that.
It's also an outrage, by the
It
way.
is.
Up next, hairdressers, cafes, lots of high street businesses, restaurants furious that they too haven't been included in the business rate cut, which pubs have been given by the Treasury.
But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of our top European destinations.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Well, it's not just wet here in the UK. Storm Leonardo bringing some significant heavy rainfall and strong winds to parts of Portugal as well as Spain. Some very heavy rain and flooding is expected in these areas through the coming days. Further heavy rain affecting parts of the Mediterranean, Italy as well as Greece and Turkey, seeing heavy rain throughout this week. Not quite as heavy as elsewhere, however. The good news is it does look a little bit drier as we head towards the weekend though. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is...
You're
the failure is...
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. Hairdressers and barbers have been excluded from business rate support announced by the Treasury, but they say they are also struggling. Last week, the government announced a 15% reduction in business rates for pubs and music venues effective from April in England.
So we're going to talk now to GB News reporter Isabel Feckeluk, who is live from Cafe Lee in Hampshire. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. Yes, I'm in Cafe Lee in Leon-Solent, a very busy, popular cafe here, but still feeling the pressure from Rachel Reeves' previous budget. As we heard there, a relief given to pubs, but not here for cafes and the hospitality sector as a whole. And I'm joined now by Joe Bruder. Joe, you're the co-owner here. I mean, how did it feel to find out that the pubs were getting that relief on business rates, but that you weren't included?
It's quite frustrating. As an industry, I think we're all struggling at the moment, and to sort of get nothing out of it has been hard. Our rates isn't the issue at all. You know, we haven't really been affected by the rates, and even pubs, I don't think that 15% makes much of a difference to them. But when it comes to VAT, is what we need to get some help with. That is a killer for us. We're a busy place, but the VAT bills each quarter are crippling, and it just gets harder and harder, and constantly price increases. It's just tough, really tough.
And I just want to also chat to Mark, the other co-owner. I mean, so you've just said there, VAT, something you're struggling with. Yeah. What specifically do the government need to do to help cafes particularly?
Oh, I think anything really. I mean, during the COVID times, they reduced the VAT to help us out during those times. We don't expect it to ever go back to that level of VAT, but something reduced, you know, even if it's 15% or 12%, to help us get through. We struggle every month, and like all hospitality businesses are struggling with it. And it's one of those things where, I know Joe's explained probably about the business rates, but it's the VAT that really, really hurts us. So any reducement in the VAT or help would be so appreciated. We could do so much more. There's so much we want to do, but we just can't afford to do it, you know?
Right,
Europe has got, obviously, they've got lower VAT rates. I mean, we've been following that, and we just don't know why we can't be in line with it.
All right, thank you so much, guys. So we've heard here cafes struggling month to month, pleading for a bit of support from the government for the hospitality industry as a whole.
Isabel Fekulak, thank you so much. But of course, it's not just cafes, it's hairdressers as well. Our editor is suggesting you might want to go to the hairdresser, Andrew, apparently.
Who said that?
Our editor. Apparently, the top of your hair needs a bit of a brush, but that's not your fault. Hair and makeup.
It's fine the way it is.
So speaking of hairdressers, we're going to go now to our GB News reporter, Anna Riley, who is at the King and Captain Hairdresser. Anna, tell us about the support that hairdressers are looking for.
Well, Andrew unfortunately won't be able to come here for a haircut, as this barber's has had to close down due to cost pressures. I'm now joined by owner, barber and educator Jack Pullen. Jack, just tell us why you're having to close down here and what reform you want to see to the industry.
Yeah, unfortunately we have, which meant making 10 people redundant as well. Our business was okay and was thriving prior to COVID. COVID and the support helped in the short term. However, since then, obviously, there's been a lot of changes and unfortunately not a lot of support, in my opinion, from the government and local councils. In regards to reform and change in our industry and how we can not just support our industry but also the high street and small independent businesses, I believe we need support with business rates, but we also need a change to the VAT threshold to support our industry, but more importantly, regulation in our industry.
Thank you, Jack. Sorry, just got to cut you off there, but thank you for having us and having GB News here. So that's Jack's take here, the barber in Catterick, about reforms that need to happen from the government to support this industry.
How sad. Closing down with a loss of 10 jobs.
Absolutely. Well, back for more in a minute, but here's your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather update, brought to you from the Met Office. A cloudy day for most of us, rain and hail snow for more northern areas. It will feel a little bit warmer and there will be some sunshine into this afternoon across more southern areas, but still a snow warning as well as a rain warning for parts of Scotland throughout this morning. Some disruption to travel is definitely possible. Heavy rain pushing northwards as well as that hill snow. It will turn drier for parts of northern England as well as Northern Ireland, and actually some sunshine breaking through across south southeastern areas into this afternoon. It's a little bit of a warmer day to come. 11 degrees in London. The wind's not quite as strong, so you won't be feeling that wind chill quite as much, particularly across more northern areas into this afternoon. Now, that drier, brighter weather is not going to last all that long. The next batch of rain is moving in this evening, particularly across more southwestern areas. Cloudier skies ahead of that. Still a clear evening to come for more central areas, and it should be largely dry away from the hills across Northern Ireland, parts of northern England and much of Scotland. It's the east, though, where we'll continue to see some rain into this evening. Still quite a brisk wind here, although the winds have fallen lighter elsewhere. Now, that rain moves northwards overnight tonight, pushing into parts of Wales, more central areas of England. We'll continue to see this easterly wind drag in quite a lot of cloud, actually, across more eastern areas of northern England, eastern Scotland. Still some hill snow over the parts of the Grampians, some heavy bursts of rain by tomorrow morning. A somewhat milder night, but still a fairly chilly start to the day. Temperatures are around 6 or 7 degrees to start the day across the far south. We've got a little bit milder air actually pushing in for the next few days across more southern areas. But it's going to be another wet day on Thursday, quite widely. Again, more northwestern areas seeing the best of the driest weather, but for most of us it's going to be another damp day, unfortunately. Some heavy bursts and again a risk of some hill snow across more eastern areas of northern England, and temperatures around average, if not a little above in the south.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
We want you to set off on the destination of your dreams this year, as you could win an incredible holiday for two worth £10,000. Courtesy of Riviera Travel, you'll get to choose from 47 tours in over 30 worldwide destinations. We'll also give you £30,000 in tax-free cash to make sure you really make a splash this summer.
For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19, PO Box 8690, Derby, DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Very close now to Prime Minister's questions, which will be definitely worth watching, listening to as well on the radio, because it will be dominated by the implosion of Peter Mandelson, Lord Mandelson, in his wholesale giveaway of state secrets to his chum, Jeffrey Epstein, and also the intervention of Gordon Brown, which is explosive.
Yes, very interesting. And later on in the Commons, Kemi Badenoch is going to be laying what's called a humble address, which is this arcane parliamentary procedure that could force the Prime Minister to release these documents. Now, of course, she'll only get that through if Labour MPs either vote with her or abstain.
And these are documents related to what the contact with Mandelson in the months before he got the ambassador's job, the months afterwards, while he was there, and also about what was the security investigation, which Brown requested as former Prime Minister. You'd think everybody would jump to attention if a former Prime Minister says, I want an inquiry into what Epstein and Mandelson were talking about in relation to the sale of a British asset called the Royal Bank of Scotland.
Exactly, and of course, we can see Suella Braverman there sitting next to Nigel Farage, and Richard Tice in her new party in Reform, now sitting behind the Liberal Democrats. But it will be very interesting to see what Labour MPs do, because The Guardian is reporting that Labour MPs have privately indicated that they will not vote against this humble address. Why would they? Why would they want to stop the release?
Explain that to your constituents.
So I imagine that the government will either not whip it or whip them to vote with the Tories.
We can go now over to B&Q's in the hands of Tom and Gloria.
Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On World Cancer Day, we're publishing our National Cancer Plan to transform care for patients. It means investment in cutting-edge technology. Our exceptional frontline staff can give world-class care. It funds more tests and scans, meaning faster diagnosis and treatment, and tailored treatment